So now we're going to talk about glazing. It's basically the same for all of the projects, K through 5, except for the 4th grade coil project. We have glazes. You will see jars of glazes in the clay supply cabinet, and they're all marked with the colors. And then I've decanted them into these smaller cups, and I've marked the cup and the top. The reason I do this is the glaze is one of the most expensive supplies that we stock for the art program, and so I don't want to contaminate all of it at once. So we try and keep everything really separate. You can see that we have 6 different clay glazes in each tray, but there are actually 12 different colors. And hold on, I'm going to go and get you the sample. Here are the 12 different colors that we have, and you'll notice that they look similar but different. This is the dark blue, and here's the dark blue. Here's the orange. They look similar so you can tell what color they are, but they look very different when they're fired. The 2 that you have to be most observant about are pink and violet, which is this one. You'll notice when they're wet, they look very similar, and that's why I've marked the cups. So make sure that the kids are really looking at the color that's written on the side of the cup before they start painting on their piece. Another thing that happens with these glazes, because it's liquid with solids, is they kind of settle as they sit in these cups. So I like to use these sturdy paintbrushes and get down in there and really mix up all of the glaze that's in there. Really get down to the bottom and mix it up. This is a pretty good consistency. It's kind of a super heavy cream consistency. That's fine. And I'm going to use a different brush for each color. So before I put these out for the kids, I'm going to open up each one. And if there's not enough glaze in there, I'm going to replenish the amount of glaze that's in there. And I'm going to give everything a really good stir. I'm going to keep the tops because I'm going to reuse them. And you'll notice, like with this green, that sometimes the sediment is really stuck on there. Do your best to get it all in through there. Or if it's really thick like this, you can just put a tiny little bit of water and kind of reconstitute it with a little bit of water. And then you really have to mix it in. Get it all nice and mixed. If you don't mix it well, the glazes are going to look really thin, and they won't give a nice glossy sheen to them when they're fired. So even glaze that's kind of, this is maybe too thin, so I would probably go and get more light green from the cabinet and pour it in here and mix it up. Make it a little bit thicker. Okay, so then I would wash these brushes, but I would take a couple of brushes and put them in each of the glaze colors and before you put it on your table. And that way the kids will know that there's only 2 or 3 brushes for each color. They're not going to wash their brushes in between. They're just going to use the brush that's in the orange glaze for orange, the brush that's in the green for green, etc. So in glazing, it's basically the same. This is the Program K handprint, and this is the 5th grade Program K food sculpture. So it's basically the same rules apply in all these cases. When you get the projects back from being fired the first time, they look like this. It's called bisque. This is bisqueware. It's unglazed, fired for the first time. So they're pretty hard. However, if you drop them on the cement floor, they're going to break. So you don't want to do that. And they can just glaze these however they want to. So the glaze is going to get sucked down into this dry clay really quickly. So I like to put a couple of different brushes, size brushes, and I like these really, the soft watercolor brushes for glazing. So they can really kind of pile it on here, and they can do it however they want. You'll notice that this dry clay is going to soak up the moisture from this glaze really quickly. And you want them to get a nice even coat if you can, or 2 coats. And you don't have to wait any time in between doing a second coat. By the time I'm done putting orange all the way around this, the rest of it will be dry and I can go ahead and do a second coat. Some kids won't want to do a second coat, and that's okay. So they can put as many colors as they want to on here, and it would just soak right in. If you get the glaze in a spot you don't want to, like those drips that I just made on the hand and I don't really want them there, I could go in and just wipe it off. I could take a wet rag and wipe it off, or I could just let it dry a little bit and kind of scrape it off. So there. And then I'm going to take this violet and I'm going to go around the edge. The kids can take another color if they want to make polka dots or stripes, or if they want to draw a flower or whatever they want to draw, they can do it with glaze, and they can go right on top of the other glazes. Now it's really important, especially with the K1 kids, to check the glazing when they go on the shelf. The glaze has silica and glass particles in it, and when I put them in the kiln, if there's glaze on the bottom of the pieces, it will fuse to the kiln shelf. So we have to be really careful to not get any glaze or leave any glaze on the bottom of the pieces. So anywhere that glaze would hit the tabletop, you'll have to wipe the glaze off. And so when the kids are doing this, you're saying, well, they're not painting the back, it's okay. But you can see I'm kind of being messy with this on purpose. I'm going to go all the way around. Now I have a violet border. And you want your kids to paint over the whole front of the surface. Don't leave any white clay. If they want it to be white, there is white glaze that they could use and it'll be nice and shiny. The bottom, however, now you can see there might be some drips around the edge. This one was actually not too bad. I'm going to pretend. Maybe I'm going to go around the edge like this and make it so the edge looks really nice. But then I have all this extra glaze that's getting onto the back. You can see that's dripping down. So what I like to do with the plaques, so this would be for the handprint, for the clay shield, and for the faces, is I like to take a wet cloth and just rub all of that off the back. And I would ask the art docents to look at each project, and anywhere there's glaze on the back, I would ask them to wipe it off the back, just like that. So like I said, they could keep going and do other colors. You know, I could put green dots on the orange if I want to. Do whatever I want, as long as the back is clear of glaze. Now the same thing with the sculptures, the animal sculpture, the food sculpture, the figure sculpture. You can glaze all the way down. I'm going to open up this dark blue because I'm going to say that these are blueberries. And I might want to glaze all of this. And then I'll glaze the bowl differently. But you can see I'm just sort of pouring the glaze down in there. And that's okay because there's no hole in the bottom of this bowl. And I want the blueberries to be nice and shiny. So I'm going to get them all glazed up, all down in there. And now, since I have a brush of violet, I'm going to make the cup violet. Use a bigger brush. The same rules apply. I could go all the way around. And if it mixes like that, that's okay. The colors will mix. You don't want them to take a brush from the blue glaze, for example, and stick it in any other color to contaminate that color. But I'm making a mess kind of on purpose so I can make this point about cleaning up your projects with the glaze. So I've got blueberries in a purple cup. I'm going to go all the way down the sides. Make sure I've got glaze everywhere, all the way around. And you'll see it'll dry pretty quickly. You'll be able to put it right on the drying shelves, and I'll be able to put it in the kiln as soon as I can, as soon as there's room. Okay, so I've glazed this, but again, it's messy on the bottom where I've picked it up. Maybe there's some spots I missed. So I'm going to go get those spots. I could even put a design around this bowl if I wanted to, but wherever it sits on the table, I don't want any glaze. So what I like to do with standing projects like this is I take my wet rag and then I just rub the project on the table on top of the rag, and that clears off the bottom really nicely. Then I would put that on the clay shelf to dry, and then I'll get it in the kiln. Once they're glazed like this, they'll go into the kiln one more time, and then they'll be returned to your class cabinets. And they'll mostly be done. The only project that won't be done are the handprint, and that just needs a little piece of ribbon or leather lace tied in here to finish the project. Or the clay shield, which is this program 2 project, and that will need a leather lace, and then there are 2 more holes for raffia and feathers and beads to be attached to those. So that is glazing, and please watch the next video where I show you how to clean everything up properly.